Hi, everybody. Welcome to NESPA's next edition of New Depths, our podcast where we sit down with folks in the industry from all different segments of pool and spa, construction, maintenance, operation, and talk about what they do and how they relate with the industry and try and engage in a lot of different ways. So I'm here today with Ben Bash. He is the Chief Development Officer with American Pool. Ben, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what you do and what American Pool is all about?
Sure. So American Pool is a commercial swimming pool management organization. We manage pools throughout the country. We do have a lot of business in the NESPA markets, and so we manage pools for multifamily, lifeguard service, maintenance, renovations, repairs. All on the commercial side. We have other parts of our organization that focus on residential, but those are largely in the year-round markets. And my role with the organization, I focus on clients that span multiple markets. So if we have a client that has apartment communities in Maryland, and they also have a footprint on Long Island, I help tie that together and make sure that experience is really good for them. And I also support our operating teams with recruiting and supporting their efforts in lifeguard training and those things. So, and then I do things like this.
Right.
So
now you based out of Maryland, right?
Yes.
I believe?
Yep. So our headquarters is in Owings Mills, Maryland.
Okay. And I know you first got connected with NESPA, and we started to meet each other because you have such a large footprint in New Jersey and New York and other areas of the NESPA region. And we're doing a lot of training and using our facility for some in-house training and things like that. And subsequent to that and your increased involvement, you joined our board of directors as a director at large, which is great for people to get involved with what it is that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I moved into this role, I was primarily, prior to this role, I was president of our New Jersey operation. So, heavy operations and, elbows deep in day to day. When I moved into this piece, which was, more of a national position, I had a little more bandwidth to get involved with NESPA. And my initial approach to NESPA was about, I'd seen the training area here, which is absolutely phenomenal. And this is all pre-COVID. So it was about getting everybody together. And,
right.
and it was just a great location for us for our operations in this region to come in, get together, meet. And, NESPA was great about welcoming us in and being very supportive of all the education that we were doing for our teams.
So, and you have a lot of teams, you have a lot of locations, you have a lot of staff, and I think that's something we'll touch on as far as those staffing levels. But I'm sticking with the training and education because it's a big part of what we do as an organization, and not just what we do directly, but what we preach as far as the value of having a trained staff. And there's a lot of different ways people do that. For an organization of your scale, what are some ways you handle the in-house side of training to keep everybody both? There's a compliant side, right? You deal with lifeguards, you deal with pool management, so there's certain things that people have to know to be able to even do the job. But then obviously there's the whole, but being better too. Side.
Right. So from a compliance standpoint, those are the things that you absolutely have to do. And so making sure that happens, we do have a corporate safety team that supports all our operations in terms of, making sure that the OSHA information is out there, that we're meeting all the training compliance that's necessary. They help make the programs that then we can, sometimes even prior to COVID, we were doing, a lot of this online because we could centralize that training and put it out there for the team. So we'd have it in one location and then, kind of leverage that team to share with all our operating teams and make sure that we had the best, quality information out there. I think also just building curriculums for this to make sure that, we were taking advantage of the off season and the seasonal markets to, get everybody skilled up and make sure the compliance was there. You got to do that in October, November, December, January, we got to use that time to get that across. Because once you get into, as we are now in end of April, it is just full tilt operations. So that's when we fill in with those things. It's also important to have some kind of learning management system or something to keep this stuff organized. And, that's been a struggle for us at times, but, you work with what you have, which might be, even if it's like a Google Docs or just a local database. But over time, we've had to get more and more sophisticated and get more involved. We're actually moving into a new learning management system going into next fall. So we're, it's never a final destination. It's always a process.
Yeah, and learning and training is that, right? Like it has to grow and evolve, but you have to keep those records tied to the individual.
Yes.
Tied to the individual.
Yep. And so, a lot of times, actually, even our meetings here, they were good because we would have them on the calendar. So that calendar could be set up well in advance. And it was also an opportunity to kind of check everybody's credentials and say, okay, when you come to this meeting, we need to make sure you have achieved these credentials. And if they're like, well, I haven't gotten that yet, we're like, oh, okay, then we could, they were new, or maybe they were coming up for renewal. We could address that prior to, our regional meetings with them and add a day to that regular meeting. Now we're a little thrown off our cadence because everything is virtual at the moment.
So you mentioned COVID a few times, and we're, for context, I'm not sure when this will specifically air, but we're it's the end of April, it's beginning of May as we're having this conversation. And I think for a lot of people, the industry's in a weird dichotomy, right? Because on the one side, it's busier and more and booming. Like, I've talked to friends of mine in the industry that have been doing it, building pools for 40 years, and it's like nothing. Forget 2000, like the boom is just like nothing anybody's ever seen. And then you couple with that the challenges, which we've talked about with other people, and I don't think we'll get into as much here, as the supply chain stuff and some of that, especially on the construction side and all of that.
Sure.
Has just got, on one aspect, the industry is just skyrocketing, right? Your position and your company is positioned a little bit differently in sort of servicing the commercial market, and like you said, the multifamily residences, the condos, the apartments, and things like that. I remember from early COVID working with you and others that do what you do as far as pool management. There's a lot of struggles there because facilities weren't opening. There's a lot of liability risk. I think we want to feel like we're coming out of the other side of this 13, 14 months later, and with conditions improving. But where, state of play today, early spring 2021, what are you seeing? Where are we at as far as, what you do?
Right. So we are somewhere between where we were last season and where we would be, full steam ahead. So so last season, in a normal season, we're operating 2,000, roughly 2,000 community pools along the majority along the East Coast. And last season, we ended up with about 1,200 pools open for use, which is a little more than 50%. But this time last year, we weren't sure if any of them would open. And in fact, in Jersey, in really any market this time last year, we weren't allowed to open. The regulations were you can't open.
Right.
We're in a position now where we all know that we can open, and we all know what the rules and requirements are. So now that we've gone through it last year, we're coming up on this season. We're certainly, we've got our operating plans together, our staff's trained. Right. We have a lot of, all the clients that opened last season coming around, they're all going to open this season. And so now the communities that were fence sitters last year, some are ready to jump in and some are still not quite sure. Right. But, I think that'll equate to, I don't know if we end up with, 17, 1,800 pools open for use this season. But it might be a little bit of an abbreviated season for some communities. They may want to wait until June.
Open a little bit later.
Yeah.
Maybe even close a little bit sooner. See how kind of play it by ear a little bit.
Right. The apartment communities were the ones that were the most motivated to get open. I think their sensibility about the tenants' lifestyle and experience in their community a little bit different than a condominium association where you have homeowners versus an apartment owner that's providing a service to the tenants. A little bit different sensibility. On the condo side, a lot more reserved in terms of, should we open, shouldn't we open? And I think largely that is a product of, just concerns about liability.
Yeah.
They don't want to be sued if there's somebody says, "Oh, I got COVID at the pool." And most of the apartment groups, a lot of them will have in-house counsel, or they just have a different risk sensibility.
Is it a different management team you're dealing with? Like, are the apartments more privately held and you're dealing with owner management versus a condo association where you're dealing with, a board of people from the community?
Yeah, it's a lot different. So an apartment could be privately held, or it could also be part of a REIT or publicly held, organization, and their decision process is different. You're dealing with a business. They are making decisions, on a business, just completely on a business level. Yeah. And with the condos, those are nonprofits, and so you're dealing with a board of directors, and then usually a third party management organization that's providing guidance or helping them get all the information they need to make informed decisions. But the decision process for a nonprofit common interest community, as they call it, is a lot. It's just a lot different. A lot more politics involved.
Yeah. I know you're involved with not just NESPA, but some other trade associations, not related to the pool industry, but that run very close to what it is that you do as far as operation and apartment associations and things like that. What would you say is this is a little self-serving because I want people to be involved and volunteering
sure.
in our organization, but you do that for a reason, right? Mm-hmm. It helps you understand the lay of the land, network, maybe have first access or better access to rule. Like, what are some of the benefits you find? Because you just described there's a lot of waters to navigate there, and there's a lot of different, it's not, a lot of different lanes you have to kind of travel down to be successful.
Yeah.
How does your involvement in all those organizations, including NESPA, kind of help American Pool be successful? Yeah.
I mean, we look at it a lot as just a responsibility of, being an industry leader, and that, if you have the bandwidth to do these things, you should, because you're, the success of your organization depends on the health of, not only the aquatics environment, but also the markets that we serve. So we want those to be healthy environments to do business. And yeah, of course, that helps other organizations. But we do feel if we have the bandwidth to do it, that's part of our responsibility as industry leaders. For me personally, just the network of people that I get to interact with and the relationships that I can develop, so that when I hit a challenge maybe I haven't seen before, there's actually someone I can pick up the phone and call to get some perspective. It's great to have that network to have those conversations with.
You hear that all the time from folks is, there's the tangible list of benefits that you might receive from NESPA or the local chapter or PHTA or whoever else. Mm-hmm. But then there's just that. There's sort of the person doing what you're doing, but maybe not your direct competitor, or maybe they're in a different market, or maybe they're just someone who you come to appreciate as, has a good perspective on challenges in business, and that you don't go to the phone book for those types of phone calls, right? You have to know the person, and the relationships often come out of involvement in NESPA or another type of association.
Yeah, I mean, and you also get exposure to other ways of doing business or other ways of looking at things, because I think anytime you're working in a company, you're become very well versed with the way that you do it, and you can make assumptions. Well, this is the only way, or it's the only way to look at it, and we're just doing what we've always done. But there's so much that you can learn from other businesses, even if they're serving a different part of the marketplace. Just something that they're doing that's a little interesting or different that you would never.
Yeah.
They don't even think it's interesting because they think that's what everybody's doing. Until you start talking about it, you wouldn't know.
Right.
I think you talked a little bit about, well, what's, knowing a little more, having a little more idea of what's coming down the pipeline in legislation and so on.
Yeah.
It's extremely helpful to just have, understand the context of what's going on.
Sure.
To have that perspective. But I think also sometimes to just have some say, or, an opportunity to have some say in changes or things. Nobody wants to, wake up and have a new rule or a law that's going to affect their business in a major way, and it just feels like it dropped out of the sky. I mean, it's much better to, have some involvement and have, possibly an opportunity to, kind of shape what's coming down the line to make sure that you don't end up with something that's...
I mean, it doesn't always happen this way for sure, but oftentimes, whether it's a Department of Health rule or a legislative effort, government bodies, regulators, or legislators look to trade associations as stakeholder groups because they can't literally call every business owner that's engaged in, obviously, just functionally, that can't work. So they put value in organizations that can sort of do some of that pulling people together and getting some opinions and getting some technical feedback in some cases, or whatever the issue might be. So it works both ways. Sometimes it's us reaching out, lobbying effort of, hey, this came out and we're hearing from our stakeholders that this might be an issue and we need to talk about it. And sometimes it comes the other way. Sometimes it's, hey, we're toying with this, or we know we need to make a change here. What do you guys think?
Right.
We're going to do some version of this, but we'd like to do it with your feedback. I mean, we've seen that in the New Jersey Department of Health is a good partner of ours.
Yeah, absolutely. And they, you might have an opportunity to, poke holes at something, or, they can't, people outside of our market, or outside of our industry, there's so much that they don't know. So unless they're going to have those conversations, it would probably be pretty difficult to have effective policies if they're not going to engage. And, it's very efficient to engage with an organization like NESPA or CAI or, any of the apartment associations.
Yeah, because we often can strike to, and again, it doesn't always work this cleanly to be for sure, but strike to the intent of what they're going for, and then layer in the practical side of, okay, but that's not how our businesses actually function. So if you want to get here and you go this way, right, we'll be good. Because we're fine with where you want to go. But if you go this way, it's going to just it's going to be
catastrophic.
Right. But if we come in a different angle, we can get to where you want to be, and it won't disrupt business. And more often than not, and again, I keep prefacing this with certainly not always, but more often than not, government agencies will be like, okay, like we want to get here. We don't care if you keep the records this way or that, as long as they're there and you can get over here. So
yeah, is it doable?
Yeah,
sure.
Another thing that's interesting, 2,000 pools on a normal year. So even if whatever the number ends up being for you this year, is you do a lot of staffing management for all these organizations, and obviously that's a ongoing, has been tale as old as time. There's not enough people to do the work in our industry. It's very seasonal. Lifeguarding is certainly a young man's game, so to speak. We hear all the time, young people don't want to get summer jobs the same way they used to. All of these things are in the ether. We're doing different things with workforce development, more on the construction side, working through some trade schools. We've got a few programs we're really promoting right now. PHCA is really pushing apprenticeship in other areas of the country and looking to bring that. And those are all great ways to bring people that might not think about the pool industry over into it, that are otherwise training in trades or those related skills. From your side, you need to staff up pretty quick with a lot of people. It's not necessarily a technical, you're not going to be a career electrician for, it's not that type of thing. There are other companies in our membership that do operational management, staffing management. I mean, what are some of the challenges you see, maybe some of the opportunities where you've seen success?
Yeah, I mean, for us on the life, so there's two components, right? There's the lifeguard side of things, and then there's the pool operations, the actual, maintaining the facilities, right, and making sure that we have people with those skills that are available each season. And so I'll start on the lifeguard side. We recognized, yes, the sensibility of current generation is a little bit different than when I was growing up and getting my lifeguard job. So I think we realized that instead of banging our heads against the wall and complaining about it and just saying, kids today. I mean, I think, look, when I was a kid, people were saying kids today. And I think we're always going to say that. Kids today. Because stuff changes, right? Yeah, and priorities change a little bit. But, so we really have been working over the last, probably the last decade, really meeting our lifeguards or our lifeguard candidates where they are, which means understanding what world they're living in and, how does a summer job fit to them and what's the value proposition to them. I think that kids, if you approach it as they don't have the work ethic that we used to, I think that's wrong. I think, you want to keep a very positive approach to it because we meet them where they are. We understand that kids are more scheduled than they ever have been. Prior to COVID, I mean, just with sports and obligations to, prepare for college, kids are far more scheduled than they were when I was growing up. So I had all these hours to work and there was nothing competing for my time. And
school ended, you worked for 3 months, you went back to school.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same thing.
Yeah. So if you approach young people and expect them to work 40 hours a week, that may not be their idea of a summer job. You're going to be disappointed. If you approach them and say, okay, the average person is going to work 15 to 20 hours a week, and you meet them with positivity, hey, maybe that means we need to hire more people, but that's part of our plan.
Right.
You got to deal in reality. You're not going to swim against the tide. You've got to go with it. So I think that shift is extremely important, and that really goes to full-time staff as well. Got to meet them where they are. What are the needs today? Where are they going? Yeah. How does your job, your position, help them get where they want to go? And I think that the value of the summer job is still there, for sure. We, to the tune of, we have, in a normal season, we'll have over 8,000 lifeguards working for us. Those are domestic, local kids working at their community pool.
Yeah.
And I think in some markets where we service, hiring those local kids is a little bit harder, depending on, where the location is. Like Northern Virginia is always a struggle. Okay. Really affluent, a lot of empty nesters in that area, and where kids coming in to come into work from. Is it too far? What are the expectations? And those areas you have a lot of, generate a lot of international staff, and that's where where there's those gaps. I know a lot of companies will then rely on J1s or H2Bs to fill that. Right. Unfortunately, or depending how you look at it, with pandemic and so on, it's definitely a real challenge bringing in international staff. The good news for us is because we had such a developed ability and capacity to recruit and train local kids, that was really the backbone of our lifeguard team. We already have a really high competency in recruiting and training domestic staff, and so we were able to meet that need for our clients a lot better than some others.
So does you're well developed in hiring and training, and then how do you find that translates into people coming back, right? So if you, we'll use a number, use 8,000 guards.
Yeah.
what percentage of those, with the understanding that you probably don't have 30-year guard veterans, right? That's just not what the job is.
Just me.
But do you find that, because you have a well-developed program, because you are responsive to the needs of the employee pool, that helps you then with turnover season to season? Do you keep guards for 3 or 4 years before they move on to whatever they're doing?
Yeah, for sure. Most will age out and go on to do whatever career they were going to do. Right. Maybe they'll even get into their internships and so on. But some of them, if they have a position, like school teacher, they come back.
Keep coming back.
And we have other work that might be more, they've done lifeguarding for a few years, and they want to be an area supervisor in the summer. So they're a school teacher. They want to help manage the pools during the summer season because they have that availability. Or maybe they want to become a lifeguard instructor and they want to train over the summer, or become an auditor for us and train, check in on staff and safety coach them in terms of their skills. So there's other paths for those individuals, and they can come back. Sometimes they take a break. A lot of times we'll see people come back that work for us. Maybe they're in some kind of career transition. So maybe they're waiting to start graduate school and they've left a position and they've got the summer open and they come back to lifeguarding for the summer. So we see a lot of that. Really, we do see them come back.
Yeah.
And we love to see that. A lot of those guards also, that really is our pipeline for our full-time staff as well. So you have individuals that have a familiarity with aquatics. They know the pool area. Maybe they've started to pick up some responsibilities in terms of maintaining the system and treating the water. And they've been an area supervisor. And, there's a lot of individuals that maybe they didn't know what they were going to go to college for. They weren't sure what they want to do, but they really loved aquatics environment. They finished their school and we end up hiring them, full time to work with us. Or, maybe they decided that they weren't going to finish school and this was what was for them. And, it really resonated with them and they were energized by it. So they become, our field team. Right. They may have started as a lifeguard. They learned about the organization and the opportunities, and then it became their career. Most of our full-time people got their start in the guard chair.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's a interesting lesson for all you young people. No, but you don't know. Some people finish high school, go to college, they're in a track, they know what they're doing. Maybe it's what they've always wanted to do. They find and they go, and that's a lot of people do that. That's fine. Some people don't. They know they want to go to college. They know they need an education. That's been instilled in them for whatever reason, and they go through that process. And you don't always know where that opportunity is going to be, because now they're out. They've got 5 years. They started when they were 17. They worked for you for 5 summers. Maybe they've increased their responsibility. They've got a college degree. Maybe it's in some kind of liberal arts, or even if it's whatever. Mm-hmm. And you have an opportunity, and sometimes that opportunity presents itself as better than something else, and you can define a career path, and you can say, yeah, this is what 5 years, 10 years looks like if you stuck with us. It's foolhardy for young people and for parents of young people, which is actually an important part of how that all works.
They're definitely part of that process.
To shut those doors prematurely without even exploring what those opportunities might be. And we talk about it with career paths and defining the industry. That if we're talking to trade schools and if we're talking to high schoolers, and if we continue to develop and more aggressive in that generic workforce development effort, that when you're putting together career pathways and you're laying out expectations, you want the kids to be excited about what they're going to do. But you really need the parents to get a sense that, this is a real thing that they could do, because they have so much sway.
Absolutely.
In those decisions.
So on the guard side, we make sure that we have parent resources to help them understand we have to bring them along with the guard applicant or candidate, because they're often a big part of that decision process. Where are they going to work? how often are they going to work and so on. So, having parent resources and engaging the parents is an important part of it. Like last season with COVID, we knew that we had to make sure that obviously we have to recruit and train, but we wanted to make sure that the parents saw all the things that we were doing to protect staff in training and then on the job, so that they would feel comfortable sending their kids to work. Because if that's not there, if you're not going to provide that in a vacuum, they're going to assume the worst. And I think that was something that we really had to hit hard. And we had literally had parent info sessions we were running every couple of weeks this time last year to just kind of help educate parents about the opportunities.
That's smart. I wouldn't have thought of it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. It's all supporting, it's another way of supporting the employee when you're dealing with, again, that demographic.
Yeah, sure.
Well, this is very interesting, and I find that every one of these conversations could probably just continue forever, and I think we'll end up talking to some of the same people, yourself included, kind of more. But is there anything else that we didn't touch on, or anything I didn't ask that you think is interesting? I think you had something specific you guys were doing that you thought was unique that you wanted to mention. I mean, I
think for all of us, every business that's continued to operate through the pandemic, you have to, a lot of challenges going through every facet of your business and adapting it to new requirements and regulations and so on. And when, part of our, creating value for our clients was providing, compliance solutions. You have a whole bunch of new regulations, and, we needed to find ways to ease the burden. I mean, we want our clients to be able to open their pools when they're ready, and we wanted to make it as easy for them as we could.
Right.
And so, helping to navigate that, those compliance hurdles was a big part of, helping our clients be successful so that we could be successful, and that our guard team could be successful and our field team could be successful. All those things, have to come together. With capacity of facilities being such a big part of compliance in pretty much every state that we're operating in, it became a need for, making reservations to the pool area to help manage resident or member expectations and, maintaining compliance. Because you can't have, if you have 50 max compliant, capacity at a facility and 100 people turn out, you can't be dealing with that at the gate. So, reservation systems really came into play in the pool environment. And, last season we had a partner that we worked with to provide that. And it was a desktop type of product where, people could make their reservations for the pool and so on. But we did go on and develop an app called Amenity Link. And Amenity Link has a reservations component to it.
Right.
But it really is a way to manage all the amenities within a facility. And while right now we're gaining a lot of traction because of its feature that does the pool reservations, but it also does the gym reservations. It does, tennis court reservations, all these areas where they have to manage capacity. But I also think that people, if you have a restaurant and you do reservations, you go to the restaurant, it's kind of nice to know when you go that you're going to get your seat and that you're going to have a certain type of experience. I think in a lot of ways that was a silver lining for a lot of residents. They knew they could come to the pool. They knew they would be able to get in. They knew they could find a chair. They knew they could be certain to have a certain kind of experience at the pool. And I think that is something that, in some way will survive post-pandemic.
Yeah.
The app is really, I know we're kind of first to the game with an app for the amenity management in the communities, but I mean, apps are everywhere. I mean, we're engaging with all businesses and services everywhere, through apps because it's super convenient. It gives you a good connection to the brand, and we're just bringing like an upgraded experience to the multifamily communities with this app. And really excited about it.
Yeah.
So
cool. Yeah. We use an app for our trade show, the Pool and Spa Show, that helps people track their courses and where they are and things like that. So
it's interesting because people have some clients, potential clients and clients that we won over with the app program initially were very resistant. They're like, well, will people know how to use it? It's going to be, I said, look, my 81-year-old mother does Uber and she orders groceries on her smartphone.
Right.
It is really, I think, accelerated because of the pandemic, the uptake of the technology in older populations. But, really, almost everybody is using apps on a daily basis.
And so the third-party app thing is really interesting that no one wants to have 1,000 apps on their phone if I can have Open Table and make reservations wherever I want, or DoorDash and order from wherever I want. I don't have to have every fast food chain's individual app thing.
Yeah.
So you having like an app that works across a lot of different organizations, facilities, things like that, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's great for apartment owners that have multiple communities. They actually have oversight into all their communities and they can make, business decisions, what should the hours be? What's the usage? Better hours for their residents, and that can save them a lot of money. It takes the place of their guest passes. It works with some of the major fob systems. You can actually unlock certain areas within the community with your phone. So we've really expanded outside of just the pool area. We're entering via the pool, but it really is an upgrade for those communities.
Nice.
And really been well received.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's all great stuff. So like I said, this has been a great conversation. We don't talk as much about commercial pool and commercial pool management and guard management as I think we probably could and should, based on, I know there's a lot of pools out there. So this has been great, and I really appreciate you making the time to come in and do this today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Really excited to be here in person.
Yeah. I know. Say we had the conversation before. We're both fully vaccinated, 2 weeks clear.
That's right.
It's nice to be able to sit and have a conversation.
My car was a little surprised that I was like leaving town. It was like, it was kind of like beeping at me. You need an oil change. You need, fuel. You need all these things. So
I think we forgot who you were.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks, Ben Bash, American Pool, for being here today. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Hope you enjoyed this latest edition of New Depths.
Have a great pool season.